What if I told you that one of America's favorite TV characters was secretly committing horrific crimes while millions of fans watched him every week? Danny Masterson made us laugh for 8 years as the cool, sarcastic Steven Hyde on That 70s Show. The story I'm about to tell you spans 25 years of Hollywood history. But behind the sunglasses and curly hair was a man living a double life so dark that it would eventually land him in prison for 30 years to life. From child model to beloved sitcom star to convicted rapist. And the most shocking part? A powerful religious organization tried to cover it all up. By the end of this video, you'll understand how Danny Masterson fooled an entire generation while committing crimes that would destroy his victims' lives. And the final revelation will show you why his downfall was actually inevitable from the very beginning, the making of a TV star. Let's start with a 4-year-old boy posing for magazine ads. Danny Masterson began modeling when he was barely old enough to walk. By his teens, he was appearing in commercials and guest spots on TV shows. He wasn't the most talented kid actor, but he had something casting directors loved: natural confidence. Throughout the early 1990s, Masterson built a steady resume with roles on shows like Sybil and Joe's Life. He was learning the business from the inside, making connections, and preparing for his big break. That break came in 1997 when Fox was casting a new sitcom about teenagers in the 1970s, The Basement Circle. August 23, 1998. That 70s show premiered on Fox with a simple concept: 6 teenagers hanging out in a basement, dealing with the awkwardness of growing up. Danny Masterson played Steven Hyde, the conspiracy-obsessed stoner friend who always wore sunglasses and delivered sarcastic one-liners. Hyde was the cool outsider that every group of friends had. The show was an instant hit. Masterson, along with Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, Topher Grace, and Laura Prepon, became household names. They were on magazine covers, at award shows, and in the hearts of millions of fans. For 8 seasons, That 70s Show dominated television. Hyde's sunglasses, curly hair, and deadpan delivery became iconic. Kids quoted his lines at school. Adults watched reruns every night. Danny Masterson had achieved something most actors only dream of. He was part of a cultural phenomenon that would live forever in syndication. But while America was falling in love with Steven Hyde, Danny Masterson was living a very different life behind the scenes. The secret life. Here's what fans didn't know. Danny Masterson was a devoted member of the Church of Scientology. Scientology isn't just a religion, it's a powerful organization that controls every aspect of its members' lives. They have their own rules, their own justice system, and their own way of handling problems. During the height of That 70s Show's success, Masterson was deeply involved in Scientology's inner circle. He attended their events, donated money, and followed their teachings. More importantly, he was meeting other Scientologists, including young women who looked up to him as a TV star. What happened next would remain hidden for over a decade. The crimes. Between 2001 and 2003, while millions of Americans were watching Danny Masterson make them laugh on television, he was committing horrific crimes in real life. According to court documents, Masterson raped 3 women during this period. All 3 victims were Scientologists who knew him through the church. The first assault happened in 2001. The victim was 23 years old. The second assault occurred in early 2003. The victim was 28 years old. The third assault happened later in 2003. The victim was 23 years old. But here's the most disturbing part. When these women tried to report what happened, the Church of Scientology allegedly tried to silence them. Scientology has a policy called handling. When members have problems with other members, they're supposed to handle it within the church, not go to outside authorities. According to testimony and court documents, when Masterson's victims tried to report their assaults, Scientology officials allegedly told them they were mistaken. They were pressured to stay quiet. They were told that going to police would hurt the church. For over a decade, these women carried their trauma in silence, while Danny Masterson continued his successful career. The Netflix years. In 2016, Netflix launched The Ranch, a new sitcom starring Ashton Kutcher. Danny Masterson joined as co-star and producer, essentially recreating the buddy dynamic that made That 70s Show successful. The Ranch gave Masterson a second wave of fame. He was back on television, making money, and seemingly living the perfect life with his wife, actress Bijou Phillips. But the secrets from his past were about to catch up with him. The investigation begins. March 2017. People magazine and other outlets confirmed that the Los Angeles Police Department was investigating sexual assault allegations against Danny Masterson. The story revealed that 3 women, all reportedly Scientologists, had accused Masterson of rape. The allegations dated back to the early 2000s during the height of his That 70s Show fame. Journalist Tony Ortega, who had been investigating Scientology for years, helped bring the story to light. One of the accusers had been inspired to come forward after watching Leah Remini's documentary series about Scientology's abuses. Suddenly, the beloved TV star was facing the most serious accusations imaginable. December 2017. Netflix made a decision that shocked Hollywood. They fired Danny Masterson from the ranch. The streaming giant released a statement saying they had decided to write Masterson's character out of the show. No explanation was given, but everyone knew why. This was the first major consequence of the #MeToo movement hitting a successful television show. An actor with a hit series was suddenly unemployed because of allegations from his past. Masterson's representatives denied all accusations, but the damage was done. His career was effectively over. The charges, June 17th, 2020. Los Angeles County prosecutors filed criminal charges against Danny Masterson. He was charged with 3 counts of forcible rape. The charges allege that he raped a 23-year-old woman in 2001, a 28-year-old woman in early 2003, and another 23-year-old woman in late 2003. All 3 victims were Scientologists at the time of the alleged assaults. Masterson pleaded not guilty to all charges. His lawyers claimed the accusations were false and motivated by anti-Scientology bias. But the legal system was about to put Danny Masterson's life under a microscope: the trials. The first trial began in 2022, and it was a disaster for prosecutors. The jury couldn't reach a unanimous verdict on any of the 3 counts. After days of deliberation, the judge declared a mistrial. Masterson's supporters celebrated, thinking he might escape justice. His victims were devastated, wondering if they would ever see him held accountable. But prosecutors weren't giving up. They immediately announced they would retry the case. May 2023. The second trial began with new evidence and a more focused prosecution strategy. This time, prosecutors presented evidence that Masterson had allegedly drugged his victims' drinks before assaulting them. They also detailed how the Church of Scientology had allegedly tried to intimidate the women into staying silent. The testimony was heartbreaking. Victims described years of trauma, fear, and intimidation. They explained how Scientology's policies had prevented them from seeking justice for over a decade. After weeks of testimony, the jury began deliberating. May 31st, 2023. The jury reached their verdict: guilty on 2 counts of forcible rape, not guilty on the 3rd count. Danny Masterson, the actor who had made millions of people laugh, was now a convicted rapist facing decades in prison. His wife, Bijou Phillips, was in the courtroom when the verdict was read. She broke down in tears as her husband was led away in handcuffs. September 7th, 2023. Danny Masterson appeared in court for sentencing. The victims were allowed to give impact statements, and their words were devastating. Jane Doe number 2 looked directly at Masterson and said, "When you raped me, you stole from me. That's what rape is, a theft of the spirit. You are pathetic, disturbed, and completely violent. The world is better off with you in prison." Jane Doe number 1 told the court he has not shown an ounce of remorse for the pain he caused. Judge Charlene Olmedo sentenced Danny Masterson to 30 years to life in prison, 2 consecutive 15-year to life terms, 1 for each rape conviction. At age 47, Masterson would be eligible for parole when he's 77 years old. The aftermath. The sentencing marked the end of one of Hollywood's most shocking falls from grace. Danny Masterson, who had entertained millions as Steven Hyde, was now inmate number P83925 in a California state prison. His conviction sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the Scientology community. It proved that even powerful organizations couldn't protect their members from justice forever. But Masterson isn't giving up. His lawyers have filed appeals claiming the trial was unfair and biased against Scientology. The real pattern. Here's what Danny Masterson's story really teaches us. Fame and power can hide terrible secrets, but they can't hide them forever. For over 15 years, Masterson lived a double life. On television, he was the lovable bad boy that everyone wanted to be friends with. In real life, he was allegedly committing horrific crimes and using his celebrity status and religious connections to avoid consequences. The #MeToo movement changed everything. It gave victims the courage to speak out and society the willingness to listen. The Scientology connection. But there's another layer to this story that makes it even more disturbing: the role of Scientology. Court testimony revealed how the church allegedly used its policies to silence victims and protect Masterson. Former Scientologists testified about the organization's practice of handling problems internally rather than involving law enforcement. This wasn't just about one man's crimes, it was about how powerful organizations can enable abuse and intimidate victims into silence. The hidden truth. Here's the detail that changes everything about Danny Masterson's story. The signs were always there. Steven Hyde, the character that made Masterson famous, was written as a rebellious outsider who didn't follow society's rules. In interviews, Masterson often talked about how similar he was to his character. The problem is that some rules exist for good reasons, and when you spend years playing a character who thinks he's above the law, it might become easier to believe you actually are. The final revelation. The most shocking part of Danny Masterson's downfall isn't that he committed these crimes, it's that he thought he would never face consequences. For over 15 years, Masterson lived freely while his victims suffered in silence. He got married, had a successful career, and enjoyed the benefits of fame and fortune. He believed that his celebrity status, his religious connections, and the passage of time would protect him forever. He was wrong. The justice system moves slowly, but it eventually catches up with everyone. And when it does, all the fame and power in the world can't save you. Danny Masterson's rise and fall is the ultimate story about how power corrupts and how justice, though delayed, can still prevail. He had everything: a beloved character, a successful career, and millions of fans who looked up to him. But he also had a dark side that he thought he could hide forever. The victims who came forward showed incredible courage. They faced intimidation, legal battles, and public scrutiny to ensure that Masterson faced consequences for his actions. Their bravery didn't just put one criminal behind bars. It exposed how powerful organizations can enable abuse and showed other victims that it's never too late to seek justice. Today, Danny Masterson sits in a prison cell serving 30 years to life for his crimes. The man who once made us laugh as Steven Hyde will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. His story serves as a warning to anyone who thinks fame and power make them untouchable. It doesn't matter how beloved your character is or how successful your career becomes. If you hurt people, eventually you will face the consequences. The basement circle from that 70s show was supposed to be a place where friends supported each other through good times and bad. But in real life, Danny Masterson betrayed that trust in the worst possible way. Justice may be slow, but it's also inevitable. And sometimes that's the most important lesson of all. We are committed to releasing 2 videos a week. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more film lore.